we have a couple of journalists in the room. So for their benefit, I thought we'd let you know that we have national, regional and local representation today. I haven't done the exact count, but I believe it's in excess of 300 locations, something in terms of that number are joining us today. So that's really, really exciting. Fabulous turnout. Thank you very much. I thought I'd take the liberty to make a few introductions before we kick off. So I'm going to start with our Master of Ceremonies, which is not me. It's Ben Smallman from Smallman PR. So Ben, I'm going to ask you a question and see everyone can see your face, wow. Which is how long have you been working with us and how do you manage to suffer us that long? Can you say hello to everyone, please?
Hello.
Ben?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all, Prashant. Well, time flies, doesn't it, when you're having fun? So it feels like, 5 minutes, but maybe 8 or 9 months, perhaps, maybe.
I thought it feels like years, actually. You're part of the furniture, and thank you very much for the help you give us.
Thank you.
We've also got today, most welcome. We've also got today a very special speaker, and that's Martin Holt from Pylon. Martin, can you say hello, and can you tell us a little bit about who Pylon is and how you're connected to this incredible brand, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Morning, Prashant. So Pylon is a company based in Deerfield Beach in Florida. A nice place to be, but unfortunately not at the moment with COVID. But so Pylon is over 50 years trading and are the licensee for Michelin wiper blades. We distribute ourselves with license directly for about 50 countries worldwide, and then we support other licensees in other territories. So it gives us about 120 countries worldwide that we're supporting with the Michelin wiper blade brand.
Fantastic. Also with us today, people might spot a name called Mark Tracy. Maybe people are a little bit confused by who is Mark, who is this strange person who's joined the room. Mark is actually the provider of our wonderful tyre laser diagnostic solutions, the Groove Glove and Tread Spec. And he's joining us today because we will be doing a webinar with Mark next month. So we're quite excited about that. Mark, you can give us a hello. I don't know if your video's on or you're muted or not muted. We can hear you. I don't know if we can see you. We can hear you. Thank you. We've also got Sarah Toffley. Come on, Sarah. You've got to tell us, how many years have you been with us? Or how many years have I been with you even? It's been less than you've been with Autogem, isn't it?
28 years old. And I always say, you know what I say, and I know I don't look old enough, but I always say I was born in the warehouse in a trolley. Picking and packing from the age of 1.
Was it an Asda trolley? Was it always an Asda trolley? Was it a Safeway trolley or what kind of trolley was it?
Oh, it was one of them big blue totes. I was a big baby.
Oh, right. Okay. Fantastic. So, and last but not least, I'm good. Last but not least, I'm going to introduce. Wow. Yeah, 15 years with me. Crikey, how do you do that as well? That's saying something.
I don't know how you're alive.
No, I think we're in a great place at the moment. Thanks, Sarah. And last but not least, we've got Darren Hartley with us, who is going to be doing lots of speaking lately. So, Daz, can you give us a quick wave and perhaps a good old-fashioned A up from Yorkshire, if that's all right?
Hey up, we all fuck up. How we all doing?
I didn't understand it, but hopefully some people did. Fantastic. Okay, so in terms of the agenda today, what we're going to do, we're going to run through... we're going to talk about the starter packs that we have, obviously. We're going to talk very much about the brand, which is a strong part of the proposition that we're offering. We're going to talk about technology, quality assurance, as well as the range. And then we're going to go into detail about what's in your starter pack of Michelin wiper blades, what's in it for your business, what's in it for your customers, and what's in it for your technicians. And that's how we like to approach the products we provide. And then lastly, looking at sort of a dedicated web resource that we have available for you as well. So I hope you like it. And I'm going to pass you on to Ben to take us forward from here on.
Yeah, thanks, Prashant. Thanks for that. I guess really where I'd like to begin just with 1 or 2 questions, really, just to throw it out to Martin and also yourselves. But an obvious one to begin with, really, Prashant, but what makes Michelin such an attractive proposition for businesses as well as customers?
I think for us as a business, there are so many different wiper blades available, and brand strength is so important. And I think everybody recognizes Michelin as a brand, as consumers, as I'm not talking about from our tire industry, which of course people recognize as well, but I'm talking from a consumer perspective. Everybody recognized Michelin. My kids recognize Michelin. They're 11 and 9 years old. So I think that's a big draw for us, to be quite frank. And when you look at the various automotive brands that we fit to our cars, a lot of them people don't actually know about. So if I mention, I don't know, Vallejo, VDO, Bosch, all these sorts of brands, the people who drive the cars know them as BMWs, Mercedes, Teslas, and whatever else they might be. They don't necessarily know what a Vallejo part is or something like that, but they will recognize something like Michelin. People might recognize Bosch, but they'll think of fridge freezers, hoovers, microwaves, dishwashers. I'm talking about what's in my house now, drills, drill bits, B&Q, that sort of thing. I don't think they necessarily think about the automotive components, whereas when people think of Michelin, they do think of tires. They do have that connection. They do think of our wonderful Michelin man. And for us, that was a huge draw. No doubt about it. I think there's a perception of quality as well, but probably better for Martin to talk about that. I mean, he's got more association with the brand, obviously.
Thanks, Prashant. Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Prashant. I mean, one of the things that we're very much in the focus on is using this, because this is a consumer-led brand. And I think, Ben, one of the things, as Prashant led to, you know, we've if you look at my competitors within the marketplace, as Prashant quite rightly said, you know, in terms of Bosch, yes, they're a huge automotive company globally and huge OE presence. But obviously what they're so known for from a consumer point of view is those white goods and so forth. And actually what we wanted to use with this is understanding that 90% of the world recognizes the Michelin man. And, you know, from the slide, you'll see, you know, the global reputation track, you know, Michelin was the 8th most recognized brand in the world for quality, for self-esteem, for product innovation. And it's actually the highest automotive brand. So we know it's a consumer-led brand, and we understand that we still want to get that mark out into the consumers. So when we were sort of, you know, looking at this, what we wanted to try and draw on is the consumer aspect rather than necessarily the trade aspect. And, you know, having spent 31 years in the automotive aftermarket, we all know the trade brands that's synonymous with the industry, but that's not necessarily what draws the consumer in. I think that gives us sums it up a little bit, Ben.
Very good. Very good. I mean, my next question would be, if I just cut to the chase, Martin, and I don't want to trivialise windscreen wiper blades in the slightest, but aren't they all much of a muchness?
Absolutely. All the same. You know, it's a question that obviously, you know, I've been asked many times over the years. And if you think back about, you know, what is a wiper blade? You know, a wiper blade, first, obviously, a traditional blade in itself was a steel framed blade with stanchions that obviously put pressure onto the windscreen. And those blades, you know, without sort of being in the picture, but, you know, these blades were steel framed and they had very limitations. And if you think of the size of the vehicles these days, the size of the windscreens and so forth, you know, they have very limited capabilities. Because of their design, unfortunately, they were just sort of prone to really being clogged up with dirt, debris, snow and ice and so forth. And obviously over the years, technology evolved in terms of wiper blade technology in itself. And if you think about from a technical point of view, if you think about all the different vehicle makes and models and the pressure on every vehicle manufacturer these days to launch a model virtually every year, or if not more than 2 or 3 models every year. So you have that force of the wiper arm, and that wiper arm comes down and hits the blade, obviously in the center of the blade. So if you think about this in terms of how a basically blade works, it has to disperse that pressure onto the windscreen because you have 2 curvatures. You obviously have the curvature from top to bottom, and you have the curvature from side to side. And what we got to try and do is obviously maintain that, basically the blade contact to the windscreen and optimizing that visibility. So if you sort of move on to the next one, Ben, really sort of people think about beam blades and obviously for what we call, other people call flat blades. And you think about the different sizes of wiper arms, no vehicle is obviously the same. So from an OE point of view, the OE manufacturer understands that pressure and that spring pressure and the length of that arm as it hits the windscreen. But with a generic beam blade and what's obviously normally being sold within the marketplace, if you have too much pressure hitting that in the center of the blade, what happens is you get the outmost tips of the wiper effectively lifting. So you get that unwiped area. So you only get effectively the clean part in the middle of the blade. Vice versa, if you had too little pressure coming down the center, the two ends are effectively what hit the windscreen, but you're then going to get a slight wind lift in the center of the screen. And this has always been necessarily a problem with what I would class as the generic beam blade. And we talk about, is all wiper blades the same? I picked one up this week that was so cheap it actually made me quite scared, because we can't manufacture them that cheap. But and they range in such pricing, and everybody's selling them. But the thing for me, Ben, is what we're talking about here is a safety critical article. This is something that effectively, if you're driving down the motorway at 80, 70 miles per hour, you haven't had the rain for a few days, and then you put the windscreen and you can't see. Well, if you're in the outside lane, it's a long stopping distance. And unfortunately, consumers can go out and buy, some cheaper brands out there and very, very cheap wiper blades. You wouldn't necessarily go and do that with brake pads or brake discs. And it's the same for me. It's the same principle. So with the Michelin blade, what we introduce is what we call the hybrid blade. Now, the hybrid blade in itself uses what we call, on the Pro Series through Autogem. First thing is we've gone back to a multi-fit connector system. And we can talk a little bit about that, the pros of that later on. But with this, what we're still using is you've still got your traditional tertiaries, which is what a traditional wiper blade use, and that maximizes the pressure onto the screen in itself. And that helps with that, basically, the multiple differences in curvature. Unlike a traditional blade, we actually have a soft cover on this. But the real thing for us is our patented SmartFlex technology. And like a basic traditional blade, this allows flexibility on the blade. And unfortunately, I'm doing a demonstration. Most people are probably not looking at me in the corner.
If you click Martin's face, you can see a lot bigger.
You can see that this traditional blade has this. It still has the standard traditional tertiaries of a traditional blade, but because it's not still framed, we can have flexibility with multiple contact, and this allows for a much cleaner wipe. People think, as a hybrid, is it a combination? Well, yes, it is a combination of the two, but actually from an OE point of view, there are a number of car manufacturers now that are using the hybrid blade as standard.
Yeah, you talked as well in the last slide about, or at the beginning, about a consumer-based or a consumer-led brand, Michelin, yourself and Prashant. You think there's a big consumer-led or consumer-based conversation to be had about wiper blades generally? You think there's a big opportunity there?
Absolutely, and for me, it's very much safety aspect and safety led. And if you think about currently at the moment, now think about the unfortunate last 3 to 4 months of lockdown and so forth, COVID. The beginning of the spring, we had huge temperatures. I mean, if you think we got up to over 30 degrees, multiply that on the windscreen, where the windscreen's getting up to probably near on 100 degrees, if not more. And that rubber's been stuck to that windscreen for a couple of months. On my driveway, my driveway, I have a tree at the end of the driveway, so I get often tree sap and so forth on that windscreen. And of course, when it's fine until you go to use it, and then until you put it on. So what we wanted to do with the Michelin brand is put that message out to the consumer, the importance of a quality product associated with Michelin, that's a consumer-led brand, but understand that there's that message of the importance of visibility.
Very good. And there's a point in this slide here just about the SmartFlex technology. You're very big on this. It sounds like that's one of your patents. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That you're particularly proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. So the SmartFlex technology in itself, as I said, this allows basically one of the tertiaries. So we have a fixed hinge one end, and then we allow the flexibility, which allows that flexibility in itself to wrap around that curvature. So it's something that we are very, very proud of with this, and we've had a number of years of success now with this SmartFlex technology.
Very good.
Can I just interject about branding?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. I want to touch on the branding side because I understand the brand equity of Michelin. I understand everybody recognises the Michelin Man, etc., and the synergy with tyres. There are certain brands within the industry that their brand is bigger than their products. In many occasions, the products are kind of secondary to the brand. Now, I spoke to Michelin probably about 12 months ago about Michelin wipers. I spoke to Michelin in the UK about it, and they were saying they were struggling with that kind of issue. Everybody understand the brand, but they didn't kind of understand why they were involved in wipers, who was manufacturing the wipers. They hadn't seen them kind of promoted anywhere. They hadn't seen any technology, specifications of them and things of that nature. And what tends to happen, you can go into a Halfords, or you can go into, I know, anywhere where you can get parts. And unfortunately, your average consumer will still buy a Bosch product, or he might go for a Halfords own product. So I suppose my question is, what are you going to do to kind of dispel the myth of the brand itself and really push the actual product? Because that's going to be the real key element to getting people to understand what a Michelin wiper blade is.
So, I mean, to be honest with you, absolutely perfect question, because it sort of leads me into where we wanted to position the product in itself.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right in terms of, if we talk about the retailer which you named, you know, what surprises me first over the last number of years is, as an industry, we've allowed a retailer to dominate a product line, which we should be pushing. I joined this program just under 18 months ago. I spent 31 years in the automotive aftermarket, and I'm still very, very passionate about our industry. Yet we've allowed a retail consumer to come in and dominate by charging full retail for a blade, and then charge £3 per blade in their car park for somebody who's non-trained to fit the product.
Yeah.
As an industry, I sort of questioned, said, why are we doing this? And this is where how the relationship formed really with Autogem, Stuart, because from my point of view, from a tyre industry point of view, how does the tyre dealers explore that additional opportunity? How do they capture the consumer that's coming through, that understands the Michelin name, understands that as quality, but from a tyre point of view, adding additional revenue? And what we wanted to try and do was look for I joined when I took on the business, we joined the National Tyre Distributors Association. And I knew Autogem from my many years within the aftermarket, and that relationship then formed with Prashant. And for everybody on this call who knows Prashant, he's the most infectious man I've ever met. His enthusiasm is fantastic, and they were just ultimately the right partner. And we want to try and do something different. What we want to try and do is push that through the consumer, but also assist the tyre dealers in taking back that product from effectively the retailers with a consumer name. In terms of the Michelin product, we to have the license in itself, and we have the license for an additional 35 years, Stuart. So it shows you that the confidence Michelin have in working with Pylon as a partner. We have to adhere to huge amounts of quality. We have, we are very fortunate that we can also use to do test track and use Michelin's test facilities. So we have to adhere to that quality. And there's one thing that, quality is important for Michelin as it is for Pylon. Yeah. We've just got to try and drive that now with, obviously, the consumer that associates that brand.
Stuart, I'm going to just jump in for a few comments on this as well. The brand protection thing with Michelin is huge. So anytime we're even making our own web pages or internal documentations or even this presentation, we have to go through an approval process. If they're that protective about their brand, you can imagine how protective they are about the products they supply. Yeah. Now, I do see what you say about a brand being bigger than the product itself. It's very interesting. I'm taking this slightly off piste. I'm a member of a car owners club, and it's fascinating. These people are taking Pirelli P0 tires off their new cars and putting Michelin tires on. And they're not even the OE fitment, because that is the strength of that brand for that particular series of vehicles. So I think there is a lot of equity in the brand beyond purely just bibendum and my children knowing it, and the compressors which I make sure I buy for everyone in my family to put in their cars when they need to pump up their tires, because I personally believe in the value as a consumer myself. It's not just a case of, you know, how we can see this fabulous fit that we're all also talking about. And that's what I wanted to also sort of go over. You know, Martin coming along to us, meeting us, saying, I want to take a different approach. I want to work with a company that wants to engage with their customers and help them with their revenue streams. And this very much sort of matches our philosophy and direction where we've gone as a business recently. So for TPMS, it's all about how can you engage with the consumer? How can you be a professional? How can you offer them a product that they need and they'll appreciate that you're offering? And how can you give new revenue streams to the workshop that engages with you? And so with TPMS, we've got that. With Mark, and Mark's on this presentation, with the tire diagnostic laser solutions that we have that. It's an incredible engagement piece with that. I mean, absolutely fascinating. And we believe we're offering fabulous technology. And what you'll see later in the presentation, what we put together for you, as that phone is going off and annoying me, excuse me. What you'll see is that we're putting a whole package around to help with that consumer engagement. And that's a really big part of what we're trying to do. I think it's very easy to go and buy a blade completely based on price. I've made those mistakes, you know, putting cheap wiper blades on my wife's car, for example. And I'm also one of these OCD guys that when I wear my glasses, they have to be perfectly clean. When I'm driving a car, that windscreen needs to be perfectly clean. And if it's not, it drives me nuts. I use probably half an entire container of screen wash just trying to clean it all the time. And when the blade comes off when I'm driving on the motorway, you know, the rubber's hanging off. For me, that's a nightmare. It's like a warning lamp on the dashboard. It drives me insane. So, I mean, I have to say, ironically, I fitted some of the Michelin blades to my old Beetle the other day. And I called up Martin and I said, do you know what was so nice about fitting the blades was the silence, driving home in silence. I couldn't hear the judder. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't see the smudges. I just enjoyed the silence of it. So, yeah, and I think this is what we want to do. We want to offer a quality product that makes people who sell it have a higher reputation. I don't know if that answers the question for you.
No, it does. As I say, there's a history of brands out there that kind of outstrip their products on that point of view. I had a quick look at the business pylon as well. There is a similar brand, an American brand in the UK that has had issues with really getting the name out there. It begins with a T. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And so this comes to, I suppose, Ben in more ways than one, and the wizardry that Ben can put on a press release. We're also going to have throughput issues again. Prashant, me and you have spoken about this. So throughput, getting it down to the garages, you know, as well as the consumer, but the garages as well as wanting to fit them. So would you consider potentially doing something that almost deconstructs the wiper blade and reconstructs it? So Martin obviously talks passionately about the products, the R&D that goes into it, so that garages and professionals are able to look at this and say, okay, we've got a serious bit of equipment here. Was that something you could consider doing? Would you consider doing?
I think that sounds a great idea, but something perhaps we should take offline. And we will certainly take that offline, Stuart, for sure. I think we had already had some plans for something like this anyway. And yeah, I like the direction you're going in. I mean, for us, we're really proud to have exclusivity for the Pro Series blades in the UK. And for us, we need to push that out to the trade channels. And yeah, you're going to see how we've put quite a lot of effort in putting these starter packs together and thinking about how we can add beyond the quality and the brand, as you'll see, with all the services that go around it. But yeah, we need to get that message out there, and that's definitely something that Ben and I, and I'm sure Martin, will be involved in doing that.
Excellent. I will mute myself. I won't hijack it.
I don't know where we are. Darren's controlling the slides. Darren, where are we?
I'm going to jump in if that's all right now, actually.
Please do, yes.
At these, the multi-connectors. So obviously we talked about the actual technology on the blade itself, but as vitally important to the actual technology is coming up. Some of the things that we're just talking about is the actual components that's in each wiper blade. So what we've got with the Pro Series wiper blades is that there's the universal multi-connectors that are included with every blade. And so when you get the relevant size of the vehicle that you're working on, obviously it's important to have the right connector to allow you to then fit the blade to the actual vehicle itself. And within this this package, you've got the resealable packaging itself, so you can actually open up the blade. You can actually display the blade itself to the customer. You can show the blade. Importantly, from a technician's perspective, they can also do a comparison of the blade that's been removed for size purposes to make sure that the blade that's being fitted is a direct replacement and the correct size for the one that's been taken away. And with all this in mind, we've got a scenario where there's 15 different wiper blade arms available in the UK vehicle park. Martin and his team, Ross, at Pylon, gave us the information that 42.5% of the UK vehicle in operation actually still use the up connector, which is the one on the right there on the top of the two images. Now, I was quite intrigued and curious about that claim, so I thought, right, let's go have a walk outside and look at a few cars. So my car is fitted with a hook connector. That's an Hyundai i40. My wife's Ford KA is fitted with an up connector. My brother's Range Rover is fitted with an hook connector.
My Beetle is fitted with a hook connector.
So actually, yes, the vehicles that I saw, they were predominantly fitted with this hook connector. Now, the important thing is what Pylon have done is they've actually pre-selected that hook connector and connected it and installed it onto the wiper blade as standard, so that as you get the blade out of the packaging, 42.5% effectively of all the vehicles you're ever going to fit them to have got the pre-installed connector. So there's additional time-saving efficiency on that front as well. So it's not just about looking at the technology and the product and the brand. It's looking at the old program to say, what can we add to this sales process, this technician's process, to make it easier and quicker for the workshop to be able to fit these and get the job done. And additionally, that it says up on there, 17.25% using the top lock connector as well. So, you know, a big chunk of the marketplace is covered by just two variations.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the important parts of this, Darren, is for me is talking about the word inventory. And I think if you look at this at the moment, and certainly, you know, every business, certainly during COVID, as normal, but certainly at the moment, has to think about the word cash flow. They have to think about inventory. And if you think about the retailer that Stuart mentioned earlier on, you know, if you think there's 15 different wiper arm types now, with around 13, 14 different wiper sizes, depending on how they label them. That's a lot of inventory. And when you walk into that specific retailer, you walk, and it is a whole shelf, it's a whole column. Because what they've decided to do is they do a retrofit, they do a specific fit. But the problem is, not every tyre dealer and where we want to market this is going to have the ability or wanting to be able to stock every time. And therefore, what we want to try and do is offer a package with a limited amount of inventory whilst capturing, and as you said there, with 60% on just two connectors alone. We spend a lot of time looking at the vehicle in operation data, and we spend a lot of time looking at and ensuring that each blade has the right connectors for those vehicle models. And for me, you know, inventory is hugely important, or the reduction to inventory.
Now, additionally to where I was going on the actual connectivity of the blades, also my Hyundai is fitted with an hybrid blade, a standard OE. And yep. I think also I've seen the Nissan Qashqai fitted with an hybrid blade as standard OE. So it's not just an aftermarket solution, this universal hybrid style. They are fitted to vehicle as OE as well. So you know, it's not we're not going out of the box and coming up with a solution that's off piece. It really is an OE equivalent product. Yep. In many cases.
This is the bit I get all excited about. So what's in a starter pack for your business? And I touched on this earlier when we were talking about the agenda. We put things together for your business, for the consumer, and for the technicians. So when it comes to starter pack, let's start with the 50 blades, of course. These have been, we've used the vehicle and operation data to put a Pareto together. These are the 50 most popular blades, and they're ranging from 14 to 28 inch. We do have other blades available. You get a lovely display stand down. There you go. Thank you very much. With a header. The very cool thing about the header, if you look down there, you'll actually see there's a QR code. So it's one thing providing this lovely Pareto of product, but isn't it better when we can tell you exactly what make, model, year, and you can do a lookup of which blade do I use for what make, model, year, and so on. Which clip do I use for which make, model, year, and so on. So you're going to see some of that in a later slide. But we've even included that QR code on the packaging of the blades as well as on the header stand. So it gives you a flavour of how we're trying to put it together. Other sides are available, as we said, and I believe towards the back end of the year, we are looking to have some rear blades available as well. For your customers, Darren, would you like to take everyone through this quickly?
Yeah, no worries. So from a customer perspective, obviously, it's always good to have the marketing collateral. So the A2 poster for the waiting room is obviously a great thing, but also a very effective piece of marketing is the customer information video. And you've just seen a few snippets of that video showing up on the screen now. But just giving a few sort of sound bites from there, for the fact that the opportunities out there, your customers need to look at the state of their wiper blades, and ultimately need to be conscious of this. And going forward into the next slides about the technicians and whatnot, we're in this scenario where we need the technicians to be consumer engaged with wiper blades, talking about them. It's not just an MOT failure issue. It's not just an MOT check issue. This should be a case of, as vehicles are coming in for tyre inspections, why not be given a wiper blade inspection at the same time? Quick squirt of the screen wash onto the screen. Let the wipers do their job. Inform the customer of any issues that may be present, and ultimately at the end of at the bottom of the sales assistant sales leaflet, engagement leaflet we have, 8 out of 10 consumers will take the recommendation to replace their wipers. So if you've got, let's say, 60% of all vehicles requiring wiper blade replacement, and 8 out of 10 of those, that's 48% of the market are going to say yes, we'll accept a wiper blade sale. So it's a real opportunity for the workshop to take advantage of that of the wiper blade and create and generate that extra revenue.
Darren, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you when you talk about this engagement, because this is a really interesting point. When we were scoping out, is this a product range that we wanted to sell? One of the things we did with people in our focus group, and some of them are with us here today, so thank you very much for joining us again. We sort of asked them, how much time does it take to fit a wiper blade? How much margin do you get from a wiper blade? And when you do the maths, you suddenly turn around and go, actually, it doesn't take much time. You're getting a relatively high amount of margin. You've got a pretty high hit rate as well if you engage with the consumer properly. So the business case is so there to be had. And it's so interesting that our traditional, shall we say, tyre retailers, many of the traditional tyre retailers have not really taken this engagement opportunity as seriously as it's available for them. I think they've historically said to themselves, I'll rely on the motor factor to deliver these parts, and I'll just kind of take one-to-one direct fit type solutions. The customer's waiting. Actually, no, I'm not going to wait. Or there's this huge proliferation of stock they're having to hold and so on. I'm sure Martin might have a few words on that as well. But we see it as a real opportunity. Martin, I mean, did you want to jump in on that?
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's about capturing that customer whilst you're there. And going back to the focus groups, you know, I was very pleased to be invited just to have an open forum with some of these focus groups. And we actually asked, you know, the tiders, when the customer comes in, first thing is, do you actually physically check the wiper blades? And majority of them said, no, they don't, unless it's an MOT. Now, if we think about seasonality, now, years ago, I'd say wiper blades would have 2 spikes, one in about March, one in October. And those would often fall really around the MOT time. But think about currently, again, with the COVID, you know, there's been a whole raft where it's now completely thrown MOTs out because of the MO fleet deferment. So now these can be fitted. As I said earlier on, we've had this huge, you know, lovely warm weather, which has been fantastic. but because we haven't been driving the vehicles, the rubber's been sticking to the windscreen. So when the customer's coming in, and you've now got flat spots because the car's been sat there for 2 or 3 months, while unfortunately if someone was shielding, the car's been sat there, they've now gone to use it, they've gone to the tyre dealer. This is the opportunity to just talk about safety critical articles, and this is for me about where I'm passionate about. So it's about highlighting, showing the customer that their blades are failing, highlighting to the customer that those blades need changing, and capturing that customer whilst he's in your premises. Because as you quite rightly said, I think if you said to the customer, your wiper blades really probably could do with a test, or do a replacement, I don't keep them here, but I've got to wait for the motor factory and it's another hour. They're not going to wait. But more importantly, you don't need a tyre bay. You don't need a ramp. You don't, look, as we're going back to the retailer we discussed earlier on, they're fitting these in a gazebo, in a car park, and charging a nominal fee to fit these. So why are we allowing a retailer with untrained to capture this work? And you're right, it's opportunity for margin and increased revenue.
If I could come in just quickly as well, Martin and Prashant, really, you've talked about customers and consumers as well. This slide talking about technicians. I mean, is fitting an easy process? I mean, we alluded to it earlier, but is it fiddly? Is it going to take time? Or I'm just thinking about making the technicians' lives as easy as possible as well, really.
Absolutely.
We've got a few more slides to help you on that in a moment. So, but I mean, I've kind of stolen and totally interrupted Darren's flow. Apologies, Darren. But if you want to take over from here and talk about the application catalogue that is included, we have a printed guide. Please go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Actually, I'm going to jump back to what you've both been saying anyway, and just look back at the consumer engagement angle again, just on the fact of what we've been doing with TPMS. When we look at our customer sort of performance on TPMS sensor replacements, it is the retailers that again can engage with the customer, do the inspection process, and go through the sort of the whole engagement process, are the ones that sell most service kits, most file stems, most sensors going forward. So again, TPMS can be seen as a bit of a sort of that emergency purchase, distress purchase, in a similar way. But we can see that already certain businesses are making a hell of a lot of revenue out of TPMS. So you can do it with TPMS and change the process to deal with TPMS. Changing the process towards wiper blades, should be a similar step change.
Absolutely.
But getting back onto the application guide again, you do get a printed application guide that comes along with every starter kit. So again, you can use that to look up vehicle, make, model, year, sizes, clip types, etc., going forward. Again, trying to get the information into the technicians as quickly and easy as possible, as well as using the QR code lookup that's also available via the website. And then additionally, from a technician's perspective, we've also created an online training course. So again, we've looked at the old program and thought we need to disseminate the information to the individual workshops and to the individual technicians. So we can sign up basically an unlimited number of technicians nationwide to the training course and allow them to go through the various videos to learn about the engagement process, to learn about the technology that they're selling, to learn about why hybrid is an option to choose, to then look at what Ben was saying earlier, that removal and fitting aspect, and the processes involved with that, as well as the sort of the best practices of dealing with the wiper blades going forward. So
the nice thing for the large networks that are with us, medium and national networks that are with us, with all our e-learning courses, we can tell you who's actually signed in, who's completed, who's passed, who's not passed, and so on. And we can give that back for your HR department. So that's quite a nice thing. One more thing I'd like to say about the e-learning course is that it also points you to where do I go to find the removal and fitting instructions and so on. But we're going to tap onto that in a moment.
Yeah. Could I just jump inside, Darren, as well, just to sort of go back to the catalogue as well and the QR code. The first thing is the catalogues are designed to be wipe clean. I've spent enough times in workshops over my years to understand, unfortunately, oil, grease, contamination can cause things to deteriorate fairly quickly. So the catalogues are wipe clean. But also going back to you saying with the QR code, at the moment, obviously, we are trying to discourage people using touch points frequently. So the QR code comes really important, because if you felt passionate that you didn't want to keep touching those touch points because of COVID at the moment, there's your opportunity to use the QR code at the same time.
That's fabulous.
Good point. So ultimately, where does these QR codes take us? Where do we land? And we've got this dedicated web page on the Michelin lifestyle domain that gives us the online lookup between a make, model, and year. So we can do a drop down menu for the vehicle, and then from there it takes us into what sizes of each blade. So the driver side and the passenger side sizes, as well as the associated clip that's fitted with those. Each of the clips are marked within the packaging as well, so you can identify the correct clip if you're not choosing the pre-selected pre-installed clip. You've then got the removal instructions via YouTube video. You've also got the fitting instructions, again by YouTube video. So our expectation is that, in reality, once the technicians have fitted with these 3 or 4 times, it'll become second nature, because actually it's one of those things that the process is just repetitive. So we're in this situation where it takes no time to learn this process and go and take it forward, and again get quicker and more efficient as we progress. Also, we've got the Find a Workshop lookup on the page as well. So any of the workshops that sign up to the starter kits, they can have their details put onto the Find a Workshop, and again it gives a way for the consumer to find out where they can get their wiper blades fitted across this Michelin wiper blade network.
I think timing for us was a little bit painful. We literally got our stock 2 weeks before lockdown, was it, Martin?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was.
So we've been planning all of this and very excited, and we had a few customers that pre-ordered and so on. It was a really, really exciting time for us. So we would have liked to have shown you a lot more Finder workshops available, but hopefully, you guys joining us today, you're seeing what we're putting together in terms of a package, and it would be lovely to have your names listed there and get you on the postcode lookup once it's worth turning on.
And just going back to reiterate really what we've said, this is about helping the workshop engage with the consumer, helping the workshop capture that customer. We want to put every resource we have available, to helping you drive that business forward. As I was saying earlier on, it's a consumer brand, so you've got the consumer in there. There's the opportunities with the posters, the display stands, to really maximize that whilst you've got the customer in your reception.
Sorry, can I just interject on that then? In terms of getting people through the door, etc., are you going to provide garages with outer signage? So
there is an A2 poster that comes with the pack. There's an A2 poster. Yeah. There is the display header cards and display stands. If customers do, some customers do have those outer boards that you can put the posters inside. That's down to obviously the individual workshop.
Would you consider an outer plaque though, a waterproof outer plaque?
We can consider, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Just picking up on your point, a lot of workshops actually are quite proactive when cars go in, and outside the MOTs, when they're doing it general services or switching tyres and things, they are quite proactive with windscreen wipers. The DVSA have been pushing them quite hard to check wiper blades.
So you say the DVSA, just to interact on that. I mean, I was on Monday. I had to drive to London and pulled into the services on the motorway, and there's still the Highways England. Unfortunately, I talk about in urinal, but as I'm standing there, I'm reading the Highways England, and it actually talks about everything that you should check: your oil, your lights. But it doesn't mention wiper blades, and I've actually contacted Highways England because of that. Again, going back to this safety critical article, Stuart, there is so much more that could be done.
Yeah, I'm talking about, sorry, you're absolutely right about the Highways England, but there's a lot of communique that goes directly from the DVSA to the garages and things of that nature. So that's where it tends to be. Yeah. The other thing that I was considering while we've been discussing, and the obviously the branding side of it, are you looking to work with Michelin in the UK so that any Michelin branded garage
Obviously, we work very, very closely with Michelin. I mean, I spent a lot of time up in Stoke at Michelin's head office. I was on calls with them, actually on a call with them yesterday and Friday. And yes, we are. That's obviously for an area that we'd like to discuss further down the line with Prashant and obviously Michelin.
Okay, cool. Well, that answers my question.
Yeah.
It's a logical association, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Most
definitely.
Yeah, most definitely.
Another great question, to be fair, Stuart.
Oh, sorry, I know I'm a pain. But
no. I think you're definitely thinking out of the box, and I like that.
From the workshop's point of view, they're getting hit with a variety of new brands all the time, new products, etc. And the communication really, it gets missed down to the actual technician, the guys that are really fitting the products. And communication is a real problem. And I talk about throughput all the time. And so I suppose working directly with the workshops, being able to have a starter pack, being able to have some kind of branding on the outside of the garage, it does fill the consumer with a bit more confidence.
Yeah,
you're right. The garages certainly now they're reopening. They've got to find other revenue streams, and they have been slow on the uptake. Don't get me wrong, they have been. They'll be the first to admit it. TPMS was the same. They were very, very slow. They were frightened of it. And they are, most people will go to a store of whatever and pay £3 and have it fitted. And the garages have got to reclaim that business, and they have to do that. And we talk about it a lot anyway.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'd add to that, Stuart. I mean, I've always been very, very passionate and understand it's about a journey. And the journey shouldn't be just my relationship with Autogem or Autogem's relationship with the tyre dealer. You're absolutely right. The journey starts from ourselves right to that consumer, and that goes through every channel. And I think that's what's very, very different with what the opportunity which Autogem and I are trying to put to the tyre dealers here. No other wiper blade manufacturer are trying to be this proactive in working with the tyre dealer network to push a program with the consumer.
Yeah. It's true.
I think the tyre dealers, so many of them have been trained by Michelin. They've got such a connection with the Michelin brand as well, and that I think should hopefully help with the throughput as well. I think there's a faith in the brand as a quality product as well. So there's lots of ticks in the boxes for us for this, and I really hope you all have enjoyed the presentation. I hope you've realised we're not just here to go, there's a brand, see you later, it's done, it's dusted. We've tried to make it as easy for your customers as possible, and certainly for the technicians as possible. We've reduced your stock holding. We've got starter kits at the circa £260 mark, which I think that's really quite a low investment to get involved in with such an incredible brand and get your listing on the website and so on. But I think we've beat our chest quite a lot today, haven't we? We've quite enjoyed ourselves, and I hope you guys have as well. We're absolutely open to questions, everyone. If anyone's got questions, you feel free to put it on the chat. I think I can see some chat now. Alternatively, just unmute yourself and ask away.
Sorry, Prashant, I did have one. This is maybe a bit random, but Stuart made the point about marketing and what comes with a pack. Just throwing this one out to Martin, I guess. What with the current unprecedented times we now live in, you actually have, this could be a premium pack. This is my idea to you now, free of charge. You could actually have a windscreen, like a shield almost, at the point of purchase in store. And then you could actually have a Pro Series wiper blade periodically, just cleaning it. How does that sound?
We have looked at that actually.
Have you? All right.
Yeah, with regards, and as you can imagine, perspex and because you couldn't obviously use glass all the time because of weight and everything else. And unfortunately, as you can imagine, perspex and clear is gone through the roof as a premium at the moment. But absolutely, Ben, that is something that we certainly are considering.
I mean, Ben, this is another interesting one. When we first started talking, and with our starter kits, we've got this free display rack.
Yeah.
And that's actually limited to X100 as well that we have at the moment. But we explored, do we do a floor-mounted stand? And actually, we came to the conclusion that a lot of people don't have that retail space available. They would rather stick it up on the wall. and hence that's why we went for wall mount. So yeah, there's so many different options of doing things, but yeah, I appreciate the suggestion for sure. We've had a question in from Sophie. Darren,
if there was going to be a recommended retail price so that obviously other garages don't undercut you.
Recommended sellouts. Look, we're selling a premium product here. Yeah, we're not selling a super cheap blade. It is very competitively priced to you guys. There is an opportunity to make margin. Yeah. If you look at what Martin was referring to about another retailer selling their standard blades, what kind of price was that, Martin?
Standard blade from that particular retailer for their own brand is £15 plus £3 fitment.
So, you know, if you were even to take that as a guide, I can tell you this is happy days for whoever's selling our blades.
Oh, look, it's £260 for 50 blades on that stand.
Yeah.
If you break that down per blade, I know you're not going to sell them like that. You know, I think there's a lot of margin there, basically. Yeah. And going back to what Prashant says, it's a Michelin blade. I think the guys just get it on. It's a commodity, isn't it? They need it, they want it, and then you've got the brand. So
I personally think £20 a blade does not sound unreasonable fitted, including VAT. So it gives you some flavour. But you know, maybe if you say if we fit two, we'll give you X% off or something.
You know, absolutely. You know, and this is where you could link in. You know, for the tyre dealers on the call, you know, this is your opportunity. You know, potentially link it into a tyre promo, but also the other way around. You know, this is. You know, I've always been very much a believer in add-on sales and so forth, and trying to work with the consumer. But you know, okay, do you do a promotion?
Well, Martin, we've got some retailers on here. Let's ask them how much. You know, how much roughly do they charge for a wiper blade? Speak up, anyone. John Butcher, how much do you charge for a wiper blade?
More than 15 quid.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, good. Anybody? Paul, are you still here, Mr. Nunn? Paul, are you there?
Same here. We charge between £15 and £20.
Fantastic.
So yeah, you know, it's nice to ask people what they're actually charging, and is there margin in it? And I certainly think there is.
Morning. Can I speak to Tollister from Tyre Spud?
Hi, Ali. Hi.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to see you again.
And you,
I had a bit of problem with the sound, so I've got these lovely earmuffs on.
I thought you were flying a helicopter.
Anyway, I think your price range is pretty good. One question I was going to ask, because like the other lads, £15 to £20, especially with having the Michelin brand on there, I think that would give it some premium selling on that. On your starter pack, you mentioned that 42% and 17% of the two hooks.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a mixture in the starter pack, or they're all on the hook one? Or
no, so the P, what we call the P1, which is the hook connector, is pre-installed on all the blades, because so that's basically 42% of the complete vehicles in operation in the UK on multiple sizes. The top lock at around about 17%, predominantly is a lot of the German car manufacturers, the VW Audi group and so forth. And again, they're only on specifically, we only put those in the packs of the sizes that's relevant to those specific applications.
Right. So roughly 60% would be on that rack.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry. In terms of vehicle park, you would actually cover over 90% of vehicle park with that rack.
Oh, good.
That's a very relevant point. Thanks for asking the question, Alistair. Yeah, we should have included that in our presentation. No, that's very, very, very important. Sophie, sorry, we never finished what you asked for. You asked, are we looking at exclusive to certain garages per area? I think it's a bit early days for that, to be fair, for us to commit to something like that. But no harm in you jumping on and getting it in your area. I don't think anyone's got it in your area so far. You've seen the list; it's quite limited. With COVID, we've not had the opportunity to push these out, and we felt it was the wrong time, the wrong sentiment to be talking about promoting products when people are losing their jobs. And we had this awful lockdown situation and so on. I think now the sentiment is changing, and asking people to consider our iSensor Pro tool or, £260 for a wiper blade stand, I don't think is too unreasonable. So it's changed. We had some more questions, didn't we? John, you mentioned the rear blades.
Yeah.
Yes, Dean, it's 260 plus VAT. Yeah, John, you mentioned the rear blades. Martin, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So we are launching 20 new rear blades that will be coming through from the end of October. These are a more specific fit because unfortunately rear blades aren't like front blades where a lot of the blades are actually molded as part of the arm, molded technology. So we actually have 20 part numbers coming on board with the existing, because you can use some of the existing blades on the Pro Series for the rears, depending on size. That will actually give you just about 87% vehicle part coverage. But the rear program is slightly different to a certain extent than the front program, just because of the technology involved.
Yeah, no, get that.
And what we'll do with that, John, is we'll make that available to you towards the back end of the year when it is available to us. The good thing is obviously with the online lookup tool, you'll get that data that you need to say, okay, which blade do I fit on the rear and so on. And you don't have that whole driver's side, passenger side thing, different size blades, which does happen from time to time.
Can I just ask about Asian coverage, Asian car coverage, Hyundai, Kia, that type of thing?
So Hyundai Kias are actually using the hybrid as a lot of them as standard. When I say so, our blades with the pack that you've got would actually cover over 90% of the UK vehicles in operation. So that is complete Asian vehicle park and everything else as well. We spend a lot of time obviously looking at the data, vehicle parks across Europe, and understanding the connectors and understanding patent because one of the things that is paramount, certainly when it comes to wide blades, actually the patents aren't often on the blade, but it's to do with the connector in itself, and that's where we've always ensured that we are, we don't infringe on any patents and so forth.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? I think we'll probably call it then, I guess, unless anyone's got any more questions. I'm really, really happy that you joined us today. Yes, definitely has my year been made. That has been a conversation. Yes, there's definitely a few special guests here who have really delighted us with their presence and have never joined us on a webinar before. So I'm really happy about that. So thank you very much. You know who you are. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves today. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Yeah, thank you very much everybody for your time.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Thanks for the great questions.
Thank you
everyone.
Cheers.